If you built a product and you've got some customers, but you don't have that predictable, scalable growth yet, then it's time to build out your go-to-market strategy. Now, when it comes down to building out your go-to-market strategy, there are really two ways to bring your product to market. You can either push your product into your target market and be in cold DM hell, or you can create enough demand in the market that you choose that your customers are coming to you and they're pulling the product out of you. After building and scaling 3 of my own startups and helping over 1,000 SaaS companies implement this go-to-market strategy, I'm convinced that the pull strategy is the best way to win in SaaS and AI today. Now, that doesn't mean you won't do outbound. It doesn't mean that you won't have salespeople. It doesn't mean that you won't run ads. However, you implement your go-to-market strategy in a way where the market is pulling the product out of you. Now, in this episode, I'm gonna explain exactly what the push strategy is, what the pull strategy is, and exactly how to implement it. And when you watch the entirety of this episode, you're gonna know how to structure your go-to-market strategy so that your customers are pulling your product out of you instead of you having to chase them down. Intro. What's up, everybody? I'm TK. I'm the managing director here at TK Capital. We operate a portfolio of SaaS, AI, and advisory companies. And on this channel, I share everything that I'm learning on scaling these companies so that you can implement the strategies and tactics that are working for us. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actual strategies and tactics from the trenches. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon that you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. If you're already part of this community, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. All right, so first of all, let's just get a couple of credibility things out of the way. Why am I creating this video? Why am I credible in telling you about the go-to-market strategy? My first startup, HipCal, amassed about 50,000 users. This was during the Web 2.0 movement. We were one of the first calendars. It was incredible. And that was one of the first times I learned what it takes to build a SaaS product, put it out in the market, and people just come to you instead of you cold emailing them, because back then cold emailing wasn't even a thing. My second company, Kader, we actually, believe it or not, pioneered the sales engagement category. So I know all about cold emailing because I'm one of the creators of that category. We were backed by the likes of Andreessen Horowitz, Jackson Square Ventures, Founder Collective, and we amassed 100,000 salespeople on the platform. We did not get to 100,000 salespeople by cold emailing salespeople. Believe it or not. We implemented the strategy, the pull strategy that I'll be teaching you today. We scaled Tout, we sold it to a market leader called Marketo, and then I started my next startup, Unstoppable. This is part of Unstoppable. That's one of my portfolio companies today. We've amassed over 130,000 users across the platforms that we serve as part of the media company. And we've had over 1,000 customers, actual startup founders that have implemented the strategies that I have been teaching on this channel and across my programs. So this stuff works. And today, as I'm scaling more companies in my portfolio, this pull strategy is the strategy that is the best strategy to use in scaling SaaS and AI companies today. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through what is the push strategy, what is the pull strategy, why the pull strategy is better. And if you watch till the end, I'll give you the tactical steps to follow so you can implement it for yourself so that customers are actually pulling the product out of you instead of you sitting all day cold emailing people and cold DMing people, because that's not really why you quit your job. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. So push is super simple. This is what people generally go to. Now, let's just get one thing super clear. When it comes to each of these strategies, there's a set of things you can do that actually cost a lot of money, and there are a set of things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. So over here is basically $0, and over here is the most amount of money. Now, when people are just starting out, they tend to start with push because they're like, oh, I don't have money for ads, or I don't have budget, or I don't want to risk losing all that money. So when it comes to the push strategy, what people tend to do, and I'm going to keep putting this in red because this is kind of the old way of doing it, is you start with cold email and DMs. And if you start off with, let's just say 100 cold emails or 100 cold DMs, even if you use a $9 a month tool, it's basically free. So it doesn't cost you that much. So you kind of start from there. Then maybe you get a little bit of traction, you get some responses, but everyone tells you like, hey, those are rookie numbers. That's why you're not getting enough yield, because cold emails have a 1% response rate. So then you buy a list. And then you really turn on the spam machine and start to automate, or you hire or buy a AI SDR, which is Spam Machine ++, and you start to spam 10,000, 15,000 people. And you start to get some responses. And then the next thing, after you've kind of bought the lists and you have 15,000 people that you're spamming, you start buying intent data, otherwise known as stalking. There's some tools for that where it'll monitor social feeds and it'll say, hey, these people are talking about the problem that you solved. And then you basically email more people and spam them even more saying, hey, I saw on LinkedIn that you were talking about blah, blah, and blah. This is what we solve. Would you like to talk? And then you basically get into a sales conversation, and the yield of this is you win maybe 20% of deals. And it's a very competitive process. And then the following month, you have to buy more lists and spam more people just to get about a 1% response rate so that people come to you and then they're like, why am I on this call again? That's basically the push method. The push method is you're basically just pushing uphill and trying to push the product onto them, and you're using all of these different tools. Now, don't get me wrong. I created ToutApp, and that was a long time ago. That was like nearly 15 years ago when cold email really started to become a thing. Back then, you couldn't do it. You couldn't spam people. You couldn't do it at scale. You couldn't personalize. And so therefore, when you got an email in your inbox, you were like more likely to respond. Response rates were incredible. But today, everyone's doing it. And everyone knows it's AI generated or really fake or honestly kind of creepy because you're scraping their social feeds. And the only thing you have to say is, hey, I saw you liked our competitor's post. Do you want to talk to us too? And of course, they show up on the call and then you win a small fraction of the deals. So it's a little bit of a losing game. That's the push method. Now let's talk about the pull method. This is the old and new way of doing it, meaning it used to be the best way to do it. This is the pull method, even for my sales engagement company, is one of the key ways we grew, but it's actually more true today. And I'll explain why it's even more true today. And by the way, if you didn't notice, as you start to go down this spectrum, this becomes more and more costly. So everyone thinks that outbound is cheap, but really by the time you're buying lists and you are spamming people and you're setting up the email infrastructure and you're buying intent data from stalking and you're getting on these sales calls, which is either your time or your sales team's time, and you're losing 80% of the deals, it starts to cost more and more and more money. So that kind of sucks. Now let's talk about the pull method. This is the method that I use. This is the method that I teach. This is the method that we use across our portfolio companies. And this is the method that I have taught nearly 1,000 startup founders, and they've implemented and they've been successful with it. In case you're wondering, like, how do I get to 1,000? Well, that's just how many customers we've had as part of Unstoppable since we've been in operation. And if you really want to double check on that claim, you can go to our website, getunstoppable.com, and you can see all the success stories that we have. You can literally just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling with founders explaining how much value they got from the go-to-market strategies that I teach. And the pull method is at the core of all of it. Now let's talk about how the pull method works. The pull method, you can also start with just about free. So you start with organic social. So you basically post on LinkedIn or X or Meta, wherever your ideal customers spend time. It used to be that for this to work, you needed 100,000 followers. You no longer need that because your algorithms are AI generated and it doesn't matter who you follow. If you go to any of these platforms and you start scrolling, you'll notice it's not content that are just from people you follow, it's content that you care about. So anyone can post, and if the content is good, then it will get propagated by the algorithms, which is super powerful. By the way, I'll explain how we do this so that you don't have to be a full-time content creator, but it starts with organic social. The second principle of the pull method, and all of this is pretty much $0, so it's super awesome. You don't post selfies. The other day, I was trading emails with a founder. They sold to a very, very enterprise level buyer. Let's just say enterprise level, like super formal. But he had hired a LinkedIn content agency and he was posting selfies of himself, talking about random stuff. And the reason we were trading emails was because he had no pipeline. Obviously, that doesn't make any sense. So what you want to do is post, but don't post the stuff that gets likes. You want to post things that get people to come to you. That pull happens. How do you do that? Well, you basically talk about problems. In order for someone to buy your product, they have to be experiencing an urgent and important problem. Talk about those problems. Educate them about those problems. Talk about how you think about those problems. Talk about how your customers deal with those problems. Talk about what people were doing in order to try to solve those problems and failing at it. That's what you post about. The third thing that you post about and you structure into this strategy is you introduce a new way to solve the problem. So you can say this was the old way, this is the new way. The new way is to do it in this way, and that ties into your product. When you do it in this way, you start to get inbound leads. At that point, you go in and you nurture and do outbound to those leads. So let's just say this person, this founder, stopped posting selfies and started to really educate about the problems. Let's just say that they talk about a new way to solve that problem. And let's just say they offer a guide to say, hey, if you want to learn more about how the new way to solve this problem and how to solve this problem, grab a copy of our guide. He's going to get inbound leads. That's going to be one person in an enterprise organization that downloads that guide. What then you do, and this is the strategy that we follow, is you map that organization, you figure out who are the other key decision makers in that organization, and you nurture the person that came in, but also you follow up with all the other people surrounding them. So if the VP of sales came in, you sell to the VP of sales, you also go after the COO, the CFO, the CEO, the head of marketing, you go after all of them. So you still do outbound, but you do it towards an organization that has expressed exclusive intent, showing you that they actually have the problem that you solve for. And you don't just say, hey, I saw that you liked this post and that's why I'm reaching out. No, you go in and do the same thing. In fact, some of your best organic content is going to become your best outbound emails. So you take your best content talking about the problem, the new way to solve, and you put those in those emails. And then you basically get sales meetings. And guess what? When people book the meeting on their own, instead of you cold emailing into them, which is this way right here, the old way. When they do it in this way, where they're trying to pull the product out of you, guess what happens? Where over here it's a 20% win rate, we see 50% plus win rates. And I see this in the companies where we implement this as well. And we know this because even back in Taudat, we ran both motions. We did the pull motion and the push motion. The pull motion had a 50 to 60% win rate with 1 to 2 call closes. The push motion had a much longer sales cycle and a much lower win rate. This is the power. On top of this, what we don't want you to do is spend all day posting every single day, because I don't want you to be a content creator. So as meetings start to come in, as inbound leads start to flow, you basically add the last piece. Then you turn on ads. You take your best pieces of content and you feed it into the ads and say, this type of messaging works really well. So I'm going to put it in front of ads, in front of these people. I'm going to take my inbound leads and everyone that's in those organizations and feed them ads to retarget them. And I'm going to drive to more sales meetings. And that starts to create a compounding effect. By the time people start to show up to these sales meetings because they saw your content, whether it's organic or through ads, and they became a lead and consumed your new way of solving this problem, and you educated them on the problem, and you showed them the success stories, by the time they come into a sales meeting, they're leaning in towards buying because there's trust. In comparison, by the time someone shows up to a sales meeting because you cold emailed them or DM'd them, where you try to push the product into them, they're coming in with not a lot of trust, but more importantly, it's a very, very competitive sale. Because they don't trust you, because you didn't educate them, because you came to them. Everything changes when they come to you. At that point, they're pulling the product out of you instead of you trying to push the product into them. All right, now, what I promised you was I also wanted to give you the steps to implement this pull strategy. This is the go-to-market strategy that I use across my portfolio companies. This is the go-to-market strategy that I've been teaching across all the startups in helping them build out their go-to-market strategy. So I'm gonna give you the steps to follow. But if you're getting excited about this, if you are tired of cold emailing, let's be honest, you didn't quit your job and start a company so that you could cold email people all day. If you're tired of just losing deals because people are just not that interested, if you are tired of trying to explain why you're better than your competition on every single call, instead of having someone show up and say, hey, listen, I looked at all your stuff, you were speaking to me, I totally get it, I'm in, like I wanna buy. If you are getting excited about this pull strategy, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. The like button is the love language for the YouTube algorithm. So it loves you when you do that, and we appreciate you when you do that because we put a lot of love into these videos. The comments section is my love language. So if you're getting an aha moment comment below. If you have a question, comment below. If you love this, comment below. If you hate this, comment below. Haters mean I am no longer obscure, which is great. I love haters. I also love people that love it. So I love both. So comment below because that's my love language. Also, I have a gift for you before I go to the steps. I put together a 5-point AI and SaaS growth strategy guide. That strategy guide explains how I implement this go-to-market strategy. It's completely free. So to grab your copy, just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it in the description below. Let's go into action steps so you can get customers pulling your product out of you instead of you trying to push the product into them every single day. So there's a few key steps that go into making this all work. What color shall we use? Should we do orange? Maybe we do orange? Orange or purple? Let's do the pull strategy. Let's do a little arrow, and then let's do the steps. Okay, perfect. All right, now steps. Number one, here are the steps to implement all of this. Number one, you want to build out your ideal customer profile. The more detailed your ideal customer profile, the more explicit you are in exactly who you're targeting and the better you understand their world, the more successful this pull strategy is going to be. Number two, you want to build out your manifesto. Your manifesto is about a 5 to 6 slide deck that explains the problem you solve and the new way to solve it. It's structured in a way where it should build trust with your ideal customers. It should explain what the big change is happening and therefore the problem is more important than ever, creating urgency. And it should explain why they should trust you, and it should explain how to take the next step. 5 to 6 slides, that's your manifesto. Once you have your ideal customer profile, that will feed into your manifesto because the better your ideal customer profile, the easier it is to write the manifesto. And then the third thing is you want to launch what I call a Broadway show. What I've seen where founders go wrong is people will post once and then they'll get lazy and then they'll forget and they'll say, hey, this pull strategy doesn't work. Let's just go back to spamming people. The founders that have been successful, and what I always drive when I'm working with founders or my teams, is you got to have consistency. You have to have consistency. So if you're just starting out, post for 3 weeks every single day, and then take the best pieces and turn it into ads. Super simple. So you don't have to do it forever. Just do it in 3-week sprints, but you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent in how you put your message out there, and you have to be consistent on how you run your sales process, your sales meeting. There's a certain craft to winning these deals at a 50% win rate. You have to run these sales calls in a certain way. So that's what I mean, the consistent motion on the marketing and on the sales. You want to do both of those. So that's what I call a Broadway show. So step number one, you build out your ideal customer profile. Step number two, you build out your manifesto, which is your messaging, how you really communicate, problem you solve and the new way to solve it and why they should go with you and how you build the trust so that they book a meeting. And then you drive the Broadway show. So you bring your manifesto to your ICP on a consistent basis, and that gets the inbound leads flowing. As the inbound leads start to flow, and as you start to hone in on your sales process, you start to make more money, and then you feed some of that into ads so that you get even more inbound leads. And that basically creates a compounding flywheel. And guess what? The more customers that you get, the more content you get, the more insight that you get, the more success stories you get, and the more of that you get, the more leads that you get, and the more meetings that you get, the more money you have for ads, and the more money you make. So it becomes an entire flywheel. But that's not the only thing that happens. What really happens, and this is where it gets super fun, is you create an entire movement. Is that you create an entire category for your company. It's that people start coming to you and say, hey, I gotta have your product. I have to buy this. You are the only one solving this problem in this new way, and that's what I want. And all of a sudden, there's a halo effect in the market around you. And that is when it gets really fun. So now you know the pull go-to-market strategy, the only strategy that I use across my own companies, and the only strategy that I teach because it is the way to drive scalable, predictable, compounding growth. Now, what you may not know is, TK, how do I build out my ideal customer profile? How do I build out my manifesto? How do I run my Broadway show? So to learn more about that, just grab a copy of my 5-point AI and SaaS growth strategy guide. It's completely free. It goes in depth on how to think about each of these steps and how to build out a go-to-market strategy. And it gives you details and more videos that you can watch to really understand this. To grab your copy, just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. If you have a fellow founder if you have a team member, if you're part of a Slack group or WhatsApp group of other founders and marketing leaders and sales leaders that would get value from this, if they would love to get the pull strategy instead of trying to push uphill every single day, please share this video with them. We want to serve as many founders and go-to-market leaders as possible. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. Also, if you're in this stage where you're really building out your go-to-market strategy, you want to learn more about how to get inbound leads, I did an entire episode on how you can generate thousands of inbound leads using this strategy. So just check out this video where you can learn how we're generating inbound leads that are coming to us, which is a critical part of this overall go-to-market strategy. Take care, everybody. In this channel, nope, let's do that. What's up, everybody? I'm TK, and on this channel, I teach you, nope, that's not it either. On this channel, what do I do on this channel? Welcome to my channel. Who am I? Oh yeah, okay. It's too bad we don't do bloopers anymore.